So David, RTS, Flexible and Muller. The interesting thing about this case, I think, is unlike in Treble-Bassett, where the parties just didn't want to negotiate, they just wanted to lob their own terms and conditions to each other. In this case, the parties did negotiate, but just couldn't agree the terms.
Absolutely, and when you read it, you think it could so easily be any of us in that position, because they did almost everything right. They wanted to buy some capital equipment, they realised they didn't have time to negotiate the contract, so they agreed some heads of terms of an interim contract to allow them the time to negotiate the proper contract while they spent some money on designing the equipment. A month went by, the heads of terms expired, they had agreed the entire contract bar a few points on liquidated damages, and then of course as things started to go wrong, they could never agree the liquidated damages because RTS was concerned that it would find itself liable. And I have to say that's frequently my experience of contract negotiation, is it's very rare for the contract to be signed before people started doing the work. What happened though is just awful, because as a result of that the parties fell out and they were having arguments about what formed the contract. Was it the nearly agreed contract? Was it something based on the heads of terms? Or was it something else implied by law? And each of the three courts, High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, all came to different decisions. So whatever the legal merits of all of their decisions, it's pretty depressing to find yourself in a place where three different courts come to three different decisions. Think of the legal fees alone, as well as the energy and distraction it would have been for the business. Ultimately, the Supreme Court said, yes, there is a contract, and it is the nearly agreed contract. The nearly agreed contract is so nearly agreed, it's agreed. But if only they had bottomed out the contract early on, then they wouldn't have been in that situation at all.
No, I agree with that. And if the High Court judge, Court of Appeal judges and Supreme Court judges can't agree, what hope do any of us have in terms of providing any certainty? I think for me the case is almost the exception that proves the rule, because what the court was very keen to do was to set out that subject to contract really means what it says on the tin. If you put subject to contract on something, it means that unless the dotted line is signed, then you're not going to enter into a contract. And so for me, there's no general principles other than that one from the case, because the case is so exceptional on its own facts.
And one of the key lessons I draw from the case is that it sometimes is better to compromise and have a clear contract that's less than perfect, but at least you know where you are, than to end up in this situation with an incomplete contract and not quite sure where you are and risk spending thousands of pounds and many hours of time on a dispute.